Yeah, they may not have been able to yet agree on how to finance this and reach agreement on this really contentious issue of corona bonds, of collectivizing debt, but the mood music is really different from the last video summit that they held. We saw positive signs from all sides of this debate, from the frugal side and from the Southern European solidarity side. Now, essentially what they agreed is a framework for this recovery fund, and they agreed where it's going to be placed in terms of the EU architecture and who's going to propose it. Where it will be placed is the long-term EU budget, the multi-annual financial framework, which lasts from 2021 to 2027. The Commission had proposed a version of this last year, and member states just happen to have not agreed on it yet, so it's still open. So what the Commission is going to do is by sometime around mid-May, we're hearing possibly May 6th, they're going to come out with a new version of that proposal for the long-term budget, and in that proposal is going to be this recovery fund. It's going to have an amount where we heard from French President Emmanuel Macron yesterday that the amount could be something like 5 to 10% of European GDP. That's huge. But what it won't contain is how that fund will be funded. And the big disagreement here is whether it should be funded through loans or grants. It will probably be funded by some combination of the two. But the big question is, should the most hard-hit countries in Southern Europe, Italy and Spain, be forced to borrow on the international markets and pay very high rates because they already have a lot of debt? And also, should countries have to pay back their loans at all? Spain has floated this idea of perpetual debt, which may sound like a bad thing, but actually it means a loan that never has to be repaid. In other words, a grant. So they're leaving the hard work still to come in terms of agreeing that contentious issue, but we do at least have an outline of the fund at this point.
Indeed, an outline. So it does sound like progress has been made. But once again, on a very urgent issue, it sounds like the European Union is going to take a lot of time to put the ideas into action.
Yeah, and we're seeing the same kind of disagreements that we saw 10 years ago with the financial crisis, this north-south conflict over the question of collectivization of debt and credit ratings. But European Council President Charles Michel last night after this video conference was really keen to stress that actually they've agreed a huge amount of money already in a very short period of time compared to the financial crisis. During the financial crisis, I remember it took months for them to really come to agreements. But just in a couple of weeks, they've already agreed €500 billion in funds, and that's going to be available as of June 1st. So that's way faster than 10 years ago in the financial crisis. That's in employment guarantees to keep people in employment and loans available to small businesses. So this is different. They are moving faster than 10 years ago, but because of the scale of the crisis, it may be still taking too long and still not enough money, and that's why everyone's looking to this recovery fund, but that won't be operational until 2021.
Dave, thanks so much for putting it into a clear context for us. Dave Keating there, our correspondent in Brussels.